Good to have our 1320 Kings insider and creator of the Kings Beat, James Ham, in here with us.
And real quick, because we're about to get into some real stuff.
Oh yeah,
some real
heavy.
hardcore things.
Yep.
I wanted to alert the people of something that we got in store, man. We gonna have some fun over the next couple of weeks.
Oh.
It's summer.
So
summer gets a little crazy. You get to talking about Britney Spears. You get to talking about sales tax. And things. Well, we talked about
that was state today. Income tax we were talking about.
State income tax. What was today?
We lost 30 minutes of. Well, we talked records. Ain't nothing wrong with talking records. We lost 30 minutes of our life trying to figure something out that we're going to share with James here.
Exactly. So, one of the things that we came up with and we thought would be a good idea, the Sacramento Kings just played an incredible season, one of the great seasons in the history of this franchise, in the history of this city. So what we're going to do starting on Monday is we are going to have every day a look back and a countdown of the top 25 games of the 2022-2023 season. And every day there's going to be a new game. We'll talk about the game. Some of the
we're going to rewatch it the night before.
Rewatch it, see some of the things that maybe we forgot or some of the memorable moments, the calls, whatever. But we're going to break it down from 25 to 1. The top 25 games this year for the Sacramento Kings. And as a little bonus.
No cheating. We're not going to tell you what number 1 is. No one's ever going to be able to guess.
As a little bonus, Friday, I'll have all the honorable mentions for you.
Okay.
We'll talk about there's like 4 or 5 honorable mentions. We'll talk about all those games. But
that's fun.
Starting Monday, top 25 games of the season.
That's fun.
Yeah.
So we're not going to watch one Kings basketball game every night at 7:00 on like your friend does, like your
still
like your friend.
James, the buddy of mine. Like I said, I'm not believing him, man. He was pulling my chain, man. He wasn't being serious. He says when he either rewatches or watches a series for the first time, he'll watch it once a week, like it was real time.
Huh.
I said, I don't believe you, bro. Stop. Stop. So if he's watching like Snowfall or something I'm trying to get caught up on, he'll watch it just one episode every Wednesday.
That's just psycho behavior, man.
No, I can't do that. No, like if they make the mistake of putting all like 8 to 14 episodes out on one day, no, it's gone.
Oh yeah. And I'm so agitated when they don't. Have you seen Hijack yet?
Oh, I started.
That is fire.
I heard about that.
Yeah, but it's a sucker show because it drops every Wednesday.
So those are the shows that I start waiting. I'll wait until we're 6 weeks in, 8 weeks in, and then just one day, like
sit and wait. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was mentioned to me, and I watched the 3 episodes I could watch over the weekend. Yeah, that show's hot. I don't know.
I was about to say,
I think it's Apple. I think it's Apple, but it's fire.
Yeah,
it's really good.
Idris
is that dude.
Come on.
Yeah,
Idris is that dude.
Legend.
Okay, James.
The
NBA in-season tournament was announced officially over the weekend, and we got into a very lengthy. I wouldn't call it a discussion. I would just say it was 2 idiots fumbling for information.
Well, to be fair to us, nobody can give us a clear answer.
Not a single person can give us an answer to this very specific question. So we narrowed down the week of I think it was December 4th. There'll be games on Kings fan schedules that say TBD because it'll work around the tournament. What we haven't been able to find is and we'll just stick with the example we've been using all day. Because the Kings are winning the midseason tournament. We've already established that.
That's a foregone conclusion.
It's easy work. But let's say they play the Lakers in the semifinals, right? We
didn't even go there. Quarters.
Okay. Quarterfinals. So you got the Kings and the Lakers, and of course the Kings are going to have a better record. So it's going to be at the Golden One Center. Is that an extra game for the Kings and Lakers against each other? Because if they're scheduled for later in the year, how does that work?
No. Okay. So like my son played State Cup forever. So you would have a state cup game on a Saturday,
Mhm.
but it's also a league game.
Mhm.
So you would play that one game and it would have two different meanings. One would be your standing in the state cup, and the other would be your standard league game.
Mhm.
And so when the Kings play a game in the first week of the season and it's against Golden State Warriors, that's going to count for a midseason tournament game and a regular season game.
Mhm.
Statistically, it will only count as one game on your stats, but it will count as both. And so what they'll do is they'll seed the tournament the whole way. And
Mhm.
then when we get to those TBD games, I think they're going to be straight up like you're not going to see a big bunch of changes in the schedule. So the winner and loser will play one extra game. There will be an 83rd game for the winner and loser of the midseason tournament.
Mhm.
And that will not count for your stats from what I know. But what it will count for is, like you get the money or you don't get the money, whatever. And then all of the other games building up to that, I think they're already standard scheduled games.
So look, because James
Didn't answer a goddamn
he
thing.
don't understand what we asked. So
I
let me
understand.
give you a specific scenario. The Kings and the Lakers, we'll just stick with those two. They're in different groups. So the way it's set up is they could be one of the final 8 of the whole tournament, and they could play each other in the quarterfinal. Kings,
Mhm.
Lakers in the quarterfinal. That's part of the TBD games that aren't scheduled. I think they said they scheduled 80 games
Mhm.
and they left space for 2 games. That's one of those. If the Kings play, they're supposed to play their division teams 4 times. If the Kings have a March 5th game scheduled for Kings Lakers, does that stay and they play the Lakers 5 times in a season? Or do they take that March 5th game and say that's now the quarterfinal game?
Yeah, I think they're going to have to take the other game out.
That makes more sense
There's
to me.
got to be a variable for like specific games.
That makes more sense than saying they play the Lakers 5 times in a season.
Yeah, I mean, like the only way I believe that you could play the Lakers or the Warriors or what is it, like the group of teams 5 times.
Mhm. The only one in their division is in their group is the Warriors that's in their division. So
Yeah,
that's the only time it's really applicable.
but the only way that you could play someone a 5th time is if you both make it to the finals, and I don't think that that's possible.
That's East versus West.
Yeah, so it's East versus West, so you're not going to be able to play somebody a 5th time. There's no way, because that screws up everything. It screws up all the tiebreakers. Yeah.
So somebody said I think it was Aldrin was saying in Euro Cup, they just replace and reschedule. So that's kind of what that sounds like. March 5th is now off the table. And if you have tickets to March 5th, you can use them for this quarterfinal game. And then the rest are on sale, I guess, or whatever.
Well, what if the quarterfinal game is in Sacramento, but the March 5th game is in LA?
I'm going to guess that there's I'm going to guess that there's some.
Call Adam and tell him it's off.
There's a
Tell
weird
him it's
variable.
off.
Yeah, there's going to be a weird variable week or two in the league where they can readjust. But like, look, you're not going to be able to move dates. Like once the schedule comes out, those dates are set because that's what they build the like Disney on Ice and the concert schedule around. Like right now, Madonna can't, like she's
Golden
backing
One
out
has
of
a schedule outside of the NBA.
Well, they just opened up a day, but Madonna can't just like say, "Hey, I'm just going to push all these dates back a day," or something.
Janet would do that.
But so what they're going to do is they're going to cut those dates out, and they're going to have to move them wherever they think she is going to be able to start. They're going to have to either redesign her whole entire thing, or they're going to have to cut out the whole front half, move it to the back end, and reset the schedule that way. So like these dates are 2 years out, most of them.
Like, well, Ham don't know, and don't feel bad because we don't know. I don't know what I have no idea what they do in that situation.
I was commuting down. I had a meeting, and
I think Adam Silver's listening, and he's on the phone with the board of the directors. Like, we've got to shut this thing down.
Like, we didn't think.
How come nobody thought of this?
Yeah, that's funny.
Because
hire these guys.
The other thing about it, like you said, is only the teams in the championship will play the extra game, right? Or maybe the semifinals.
They'll play the 83rd game.
They'll play the 83rd game, right? So there's only that. So in that scenario where the Kings and Lakers, because you can't necessarily say they're going to play. They might not play each other in the quarterfinal. You don't know. So if they play each other in the quarterfinal, you either replace that game and they still play 4 times. You either add that as a 5th, and then do you take a game away on the schedule?
No, and actually, I think what they might even do this. I know that this sounds totally crazy, but you could get to the quarterfinals and just play the team you're supposed to play, and then they will have a point system that determines who goes through. So
Well,
it
they
might,
don't have that.
Well,
It's
no,
a
it could be that-
knockout.
Is it going to
style.
be
Yeah,
It's going to be a like round robin.
Yeah. No.
See,
Once
I missed the
once you get to
the thing
quarterfinals,
today.
it's a tournament.
It's a tournament. Yeah, like you're just knocked
Winning, go
out.
home.
Like you lose, you're out.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
And
your
then,
basic
like, if the loser plays
elimination game.
a regular season game, just a regular season game that week, the winner
That's to be
plays the
determined.
semifinal. Yeah.
Huh. This is going to get complicated.
Yeah, no one knows.
It's going to get complicated.
I searched NBA playing tournament for dummies.
Yo, they really didn't think about this.
And we read 4 different articles. The Athletic, SI, CBS, ESPN. Not one person presented this scenario.
I'm gonna have to read the rules, and I'll get back to you because I usually like when there are
No, you're
rules
great at this stuff. That's why
in place.
we would ask you. We thought you would know immediately.
No, it was like my day's been
Busy
busy,
day,
so
busy day.
I didn't
Yeah.
have a bunch of stuff going, that I could go through and read. But
Well, you ain't gonna find it on the internet because I searched.
I thought I
You
got
have
an
to make
email
phone
this
calls,
morning.
man. Because on the frequently asked questions,
Well,
all they think is people are asking who's winning the awards.
Where can I watch? Will the players be honored? Like, no one asked that. Like, literally, no one asked that. Talking about frequently asked questions.
Okay.
And I think you did get an email, James. Here
I
it is.
did.
In
I
case
did.
you missed it, NBA announced details of first ever
The
season
breakdown.
tournament with Sacramento Kings playing in Group C. Look at click that FAQs. I guarantee you those FAQs aren't FAQs.
Oh,
They ain't
no.
FAQs.
Frequently asked questions.
In season tournament 101 rules, format, and how it works. Doesn't explain how this situation works.
Need to get Richard
Even
Jefferson.
read this verbatim on the air and legit confused myself more.
Yeah. We need to get Richard Jefferson on the air. He knew everything.
I find that that's never usually the case.
Tournament nights will be
Not to be disrespectful, but
Tuesday and Friday, November
That's a great
3rd through
idea.
28th.
I love the Tuesday and Friday. You stay away from football, so you don't have to deal with that. And Tuesday is usually a down night that time of year. Friday, you can build some anticipation. I'll tell you right now, that Kings Warriors game going to be Friday ESPN.
Oh, I see
put
that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I'll put that in the schedule right now.
okay.
Might even get a Wemby
They
national
schedule that
championship game.
one and work backwards.
Single elimination game in the quarterfinals.
See, Ham's
December
looking for it. You ain't gonna
4th.
find it, James. You can look all you want to.
Only 82
You
games.
ain't
Will
gonna
there be
find it.
games labeled as TBD? Every team, including 2 seasons.
James ain't gonna find it.
4
Bro,
teams
we
lose
stumped
the
it. Ain't
quarterfinals
there.
will play a regular
We
season.
stumped the NBA, man.
Yeah.
The NBA didn't think about
The
this, man.
NBA hasn't thought this through.
We stumped the NBA.
Oh, man.
Ridiculous.
That's
Oh,
funny.
wow.
We'll
So how
keep
about
it
Victor
moving.
Wembanyama? Wembanyama.
He looked
Well-
good yesterday. Did you watch him yesterday?
You know what? Like I did. I watched yesterday. And I may have texted Damien on. I may have been one of the panicked people on Friday when I watched. You know what?
I wasn't gonna bring that up.
The
but-
worst part is like the NBA did themselves such a disservice because was it Fran Fraschilla that was calling that game? Like whoever was calling the Friday night game. I don't know why he did this because the second he said Ralph Sampson, it was like
Oof.
everyone in the like, oh no, like he's horrible. Like the second you saw him, you're like, oh no, he's on stilts. He can't bend his knees. Like he is running like Ralph Sampson. Like the whole time, all you could think was Ralph Sampson. If you know who Ralph Sampson was, or if you realize that the Sacramento Kings paid Ralph Sampson like a 5-year deal and he
Yeah.
played like 8 games.
That's
Yeah, Ralph Sampson was 7'3",
It's a good deal if you can get it.
built like exactly like that, had all kinds of game except for he couldn't dribble because at that point tall people couldn't dribble. It was a rule in the world
yes.
that tall people couldn't dribble. And man, just talk about like an overreaction for sure. But he just looked so bad. He just looked like a stiff. And seeing him like kind of wake up, the next game, and well, I mean, he had a huge game, but the whole time, you know what I was thinking? How do I get Barlow on the Kings? The entire time I'm watching Wembanyama. I don't know how, but you got a Dominic Barlow. Like I saw him at Cal Classic and thought, holy cow, is this kid talented? And he's one of those kids that went to the other, what is the school that the Thompson twins went to?
Oh, the
Overtime Elite. Yeah. And he goes undrafted. They gave him a 2-way contract. So he's kind of like Nimi, who's just hanging out there and can't, they have his rights, but it's a 2-way rights. And like, there's some confusion about what it is that how you can get him. My goodness, is he like a good up and coming young player, 20 years old, like all over the place. I thought he, as much as Wembanyama stood out, he stood out every single time we've seen him play.
If Victor Wembanyama ends up with the same career as Ralph Sampson, that would be disappointing in a major way, right? But doesn't Ralph Sampson kind of get remembered a little unfairly?
Yeah,
he was good before his foot started bothering him, right? Like he
had no knees.
His knees started bothering him.
So
in Houston, he was cool, and then the injuries. Did they? No, they didn't win. They beat the Lakers though and went to the finals in like his second year or something like that, and lost to the Celtics in the NBA finals. But I think about that. I was like, Ralph, and that would really be the concern, I think, with Victor Wembanyama, because me and Damian talked about it. Every time he hits the floor, it's terrifying. Like it is terrifying to see him go to the floor.
Long drop.
Yeah.
I also think you're watching him and he has some odd body mechanics. Like it just is. I mean, like there's so many things that he's doing. And we hear the story, he's never lifted a weight in his life. Yeah. that story was 100% accurate. That kid's never lifted a weight in his life. And that's what I think teams are going to do. Like he won't be able to put the ball on the floor the first like 2 years. Like teams, like even at the G League level, are just taking the ball from him every time he puts the ball on the floor. That doesn't mean he doesn't do some amazing things because he's so incredibly tall and long. But for me, I do have some concerns. He moved a lot like Scalabrine. Like he was never able to. He doesn't bend his knees all the time, and so a lot of time he's straight legged, and you're like, man, that's not going to be good for your long term. I think even like we watched Chet's got so much stronger and looked really, really good in summer league so far. And he's, shaking the rust off just like the rest of these young players. But you can see where, two guys that are built kind of similarly.
And we talked about it earlier as well. And I know you feel the same way. Didn't even really think about it till he said it. But when Vic was like, look, less than 50% of what I've done in the last month has been basketball. Like that. He's been ran around all over the place. Hadn't had an opportunity to really play for probably the majority of the last month and a half. That would be pretty tough. And then you throw him out there in Vegas where he's the biggest target, for Charlotte. And that was a lot. I'm sure that was a lot. And, he said after the game, he said, I didn't know what I was doing out there. It's like pretty overwhelming. He got a chance to catch his breath on Saturday and came back on Sunday and played pretty well. So I think he's going to be fine.
Somebody quote tweeted that graphic of Victor Wembanyama, as the picture and the quote says, I didn't know what I was doing out there, and said, this is Josh McDaniels every Sunday.
Come on, man.
I laughed.
True story.
So hard at that. That was the funniest thing on the internet this weekend. The realest thing on the internet, too.
True story.
I feel like big dudes who are really skinny they're awkward. Like I think about Shaq. Like there was nothing awkward. Like what's that? Shaq 7'1", but huge. Like there was nothing awkward about him. I don't think there was ever anything really awkward about Joel Embiid. Like maybe like a smidge, but not like he kind of grew out of that really quick.
Yeah, I was fine.
Yeah. I feel like when you're that tall and that thin, that's where the awkwardness comes into play.
Well, I also think that what they're doing is, we're seeing the modern day big man change so much where all of a sudden they are allowed to take the ball up the court. They are allowed to take guys off the dribble. They're allowed to go out and shoot 3-point shots. So it's a little complicated for these guys, especially for a guy like this who he probably has never dealt with a total switching defense. Like zones, sure, he sees a lot of zone in Europe, but a switching defense where all of a sudden you got a 6'2" guy on you, you got a 6'7" guy on you, you got a 7-footer on you, but all within the span of 8 seconds, you have all of these different body types on you. And so you can't put the ball in the court, start dribbling the ball against a guard if you're him. Not right now. He's not strong enough to push through a guard, and they can take the ball from him all day long. I mean, he's dribbling like Rudy Gay height with dribbles, like way up tall. And so he's got a lot to learn. It's not going to be like an easy transition. He'll put up stats, but will they win and stuff like that? I think that's going to be a bigger question. I don't
think the expectation is for them to win, though. I don't think there's expectations for San Antonio, not this year, for them to win.
Their expectation is exactly where I thought it would be when they drafted him, like 3 years from now. It's not right now. It's not next year. Like, you got a long way to go as a team and as an individual player.
Which is weird because that's not what Tim Duncan had to go through, right? Like, everything has been talked about with David Robinson and Tim Duncan and all that. Well, Tim didn't have to go through that. No. Tim, they knew what they were doing.
They had a ready-made championship.
Yeah, they had a championship team, and David Robinson missed a year, and they landed at the top of the lottery, bringing Tim Duncan in. So Vic is gonna, Tim can't give him advice on this. You see the group picture of them all together. Tim's like, "Yeah, you're gonna win a championship, kid. Congratulations! You're gonna win 5 of them." Victor Wembanyama is gonna have to go through something those guys didn't have to go through.
I say all the time, man. There's certain occasions, like you can make the argument Dwayne Wade was better than Shaq that year. They won or whatever, but still was Shaq. Shaq was the reason why that team was in that place. But I look at Mike, and I don't care who you are. Look at LeBron. I don't care who you are. You're looking at about 7-8 years before you win a championship. If you don't have a established Hall of Famer next to you, and it doesn't look like the Spurs will, 7-8 years before you're like true, all right, this guy can win a chip. And I think people don't factor that in when they think about any of these rookies. They're just like, oh, he's gonna be great. Give him 3 years. He might win MVP. He might, have his team in the playoffs. But championship, that's why they all hug it the same way. Because there's a lot that they go through before they actually get to it. Like, there's a lot of ups and downs and heartaches and doubts and perseverance. That's why they all hug it the same way when they finally get it. There's a reason for that.
Yeah, and I'll point this out too. Like, San Antonio, they've been in the league, I don't know, 40-something years. They were an ABA team, right? So I count. They've missed the playoffs 8 times total in their entire history since coming to the NBA. And of those 8 times, 4 of them are like these last 4 years where they were no good. Before that, though, well, let's just look. They've 8 times, right? They've got the number 1 pick 3 times, and all 3 of their number 1 picks are legit superstar number 1s. The Kings in Sacramento since 1985. So what are we looking at? 38 years. They've made the playoffs 11 times, which means you got like 27 years of them being in the lottery. They've got the number 1 overall pick 1 time, and it was Purvis Ellison. And there was no one else. There was no Tim Duncan that they missed on. They didn't do the Sam Bowie thing where you passed on Michael Jordan to take Sam. They literally had no one really to choose from outside of that, and that's it. And so a lot of the San Antonio legacy is that luck. It is what it is. Really, really.
I mean, they've done a
lucky.
lot of things right along the way. No question about that. But
it's really
they landed
easy
Tim
to
Duncan. They landed David Robinson.
Yeah.
They landed Victor Wembanyama. It's
easier to build a team around a superstar than build a team around Purvis Ellison. And so, like, they found great players in the late first or with Tony Parker in the second round and Ginobili. But at the same time, could those guys have become who they were if Tim Duncan or David Robinson wasn't there? Probably not. So, it's all tied in together. It's like some franchises just have the luck. I mean, what did Orlando? We're looking up here, the guy wearing the Orlando shirt with an Oakland A's hat. I don't understand what's happening at all right there. But it's sitting next to someone wearing a Warriors jersey. I'm totally baffled.
Warriors aren't even playing.
But the year that, they get Shaq one year and then Chris Webber, they have the number 1 pick in the Chris Webber draft, and they traded it for number 3 where they took Penny Hardaway. I mean, it's just crazy. Some franchises just have that kind of luck, or the NBA just wants.
Cleveland had 3 in short order.
Yeah. Oh, very true.
Orlando got the number 1
Wait,
pick.
did they have 4?
They had Kyrie, Wiggins, Bennett,
LeBron.
Kyrie.
Yeah, they had 4.
Whew. Boy, that Bennett pick.
Boy, the Bennett pick for sure. But
the whole top end of
that Kyrie Derek Williams debate.
Oh
my God. Kyrie Derek. They had 4 number 1 picks in short order. That's incredible.
Yeah.
That is absolutely incredible. Kings got Purvis out. Who was that? Jerry?
Always nervous, Purvis.
No.
That was 85?
No. 85. They drafted Joe Klein. that was
the
the
killer.
number 7
The killer
pick.
about that one too is not only did they pick the wrong guy, but the draft wasn't even that good.
Oh no, it was horrible. That was 89-90.
What, Purvis Ellison or who came after Purvis Ellison?
I think Karl Malone is the only. It was Carl. No, Carl was already here. It was somebody.
Danny Ferry was number 2, Sean Elliott number 3, Glenn Rice, J.R. Reed.
Fine.
They were really looking at Stacey King, I remember, George McLeod, who was a King scout at number 7.
It's not exactly Luka Doncic. You're like,
Randy
all
White.
fine ball players. I'm a big Glenn Rice fan.
Yeah, they should have went with Glenn Rice.
Yeah, Tim Hardaway number 14. That's your
that's
Hall of Sean Kemp at number 17. But again, high school kid. Vlade Divac, number 26. I'm trying to think that year.
Those are tough though. King should have known to take the guy at 26 with number 1
Right.
or 17 at number 1, or what would you say Tim Hardaway was?
14.
That's tough.
Yeah.
Like that's a lot of misevaluation or a lot of growth by those players after they're drafted.
Bill Russell made the pick, and they didn't even interview him, and I don't think they'd ever seen him live. And then Jerry took over.
God bless Bill Russell.
Yeah, well,
I don't see the Sacramento portion of Bill Russell's career covered in any of these documentaries.
Shouldn't be. Going all positivity.
Let's just pretend this didn't happen.
It's hiding in the credits.
Just...
It's him sitting.
Oh, by the
there.
way, he was the GM and coach for Sacramento once.
It's him reading a newspaper in the stands.
Yeah,
It's in the
the
credits.
only time we see that is like when you get mentioned that he was the first black head coach, and he's just looking miserable on the bench.
Well, wasn't he the first black head coach in Boston?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was. I don't know why they always use that one. I don't know why they use that one.
He won.
Well, call Jay Williams and find out.
No,
who
I
the
don't know
first...
why they use the Kings one. Like
No.
you got record of him in Boston. Just use those clips.
Okay.
All right.
It's fun reliving that time frame. And then Jerry took. Okay, poor Jerry. Hey, Jerry, we screwed up. Could you come fix this again? Sorry, Jerry. This is the last time we're gonna ask. We'll keep you around forever if you fix this one last thing. God bless Jerry Reynolds.
Yeah.
God bless Jerry Reynolds. We were having a discussion about the depth chart earlier. So, well, first of all, let's start with this question. It started with the discussion on Kessler Edwards. I like the way that Kessler played for the first part of Friday's game. And one thing that stood out to me with him is I can see it. Like I can see why. I could see it with this team. I can see everything. It needs to come together, but I see it. What do you think of Kessler Edwards overall? Like, what do you think of his potential here? Does he have a real shot at a future here?
I don't know. Like, I think I'm going to leave it up in the air for like through training camp. Like, can he beat out Chris Duarte for a rotation spot? And either way, like you and I were talking off the air, there's this issue that I think Keegan Murray is going to get used a ton at the small forward position.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Kings believe that Keegan Murray, like if they can get him to be a small forward long term, that it really changes the dynamic of their build moving forward. Because it's easier to find that power forward, that stretch forward, that, you know, even like Sasha is going to be there for 3 years. Trey Lyles is there for 2 years that can play the 4. But like that's if he's going to be the backup small forward, how many minutes are there? And if Kevin Huerter and Malik Monk, you know, again, Kevin played 30 minutes a game last year, Malik played 22. That's still 4 minutes you got to steal from a different position. So whether you're stealing it from the point guard position or you're stealing it from the small forward position, that could go even up to like 6 minutes this year. So there might not even be a lot of minutes for that extra player at the 3. You know, a guy can come in and play like 3 to 4 minutes early and maybe only play 8 minutes, but they're going to have to figure some things out there, especially if you want to get Sasha up to, you know, the 18 to 20 minute per game mark. And if you were trying to get Trey Lyles above, you know, just 13 to 14 minutes backing up Demonis, he's going to have to play some power. There's going to be this, you know, sort of unwinding of minutes from other positions. So I'm not sure that Kessler like can be in the rotation, but I don't also know that Duarte can be in the rotation. Clearly one of them gives you like a really, really nice all around player. And the other one gives you like the 3-and-D defensive minded guy that you need. But are either of them so good that they have to push their way into the rotation? It's going to be a question for Mike Brown.
Yeah, see, this came about because we're talking about the summer league games and watching the teams. And I just wonder, and I'm not sure there's a person on the summer league team that will crack the rotation. Kessler's probably the closest one, but you mentioned it, and that's the exact question you got to ask yourself. Can he beat out Chris Duarte? And right now, I would say either Kessler or Kobe Jones are better than the Chris Duarte I think the Kings are getting in this trade. And at that point, that's 10. You know, maybe Mike Brown goes and, you know, has somebody in like a Terrence Davis type situation where they play every once in a while or something like that. And maybe that's Kessler or Kobe or anything like that. But I don't know if there's anybody on that team right now that cracks the regular rotation for the Kings.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Kings are really deep. I mean, that's what we're seeing. Like, you might not love, like, everyone doesn't have to love what they did this offseason. You could say you wish they would have done more. They would have gone out and got a bigger name. But what they did do is replace, you know, their super athletes at the 2 in Terrence Davis and Chimezie Metu with like super high basketball IQ players and Duarte and Sasha Vezenkov. I think they're deeper though at those positions. They're reliable players. And I'll even throw Trey in that. I think we keep forgetting how important Trey was to the team last year, how he was almost like a toss in and like played so incredibly well in his last 20 something games a year before. And you started to see like an outline of like, why does this guy make so little? That's what I was always like, why is he making $2.4 million? Then the next season, he's making $2.6 million last year, playing like an $8 million player, maybe a little bit more. And, you know, sure enough, he earned himself some minutes, but like they keep moneyballing this thing a little bit. They keep finding these guys that are smart, that know their position, that understand their role. And I think that they're going to keep sort of building this way. And if a deal comes along for one of these big name guys, and go ahead and swing for the fence. But for right now, like it's okay. It's okay to make monumental strides by making minor strides, like with multiple players and by having Keegan Murray become a better player.
And it feels like, just listening to you say all that, James, that this team, like, it's fun to talk about Kessler Edwards and Duarte and, you know, go back and forth about Neemias Queta and his potential and all of that. But when it comes to the Sacramento Kings' success, it almost certainly falls on the shoulders of the same exact guys it did last year.
Well, yeah, and I think the interesting thing is that we all expect Keegan's going to be a much better player than he was last year. Like all around, he'll be a much better player. Now, whether that equates to 18 points or 20 points per game, who knows? It could equate to 15 points, and then the year after he takes another big stride forward as Harrison Barnes takes a small step backwards. But
That's what De'Aaron did.
yeah,
De'Aaron did that.
exactly. So it's going to be, I think, Fox showing that he can do what he did last year for 82 and earning that all-star nod in the first half of the season, not the second half. I thought he did a good job in the first half, and he was an injury replacement. But this year, I expect him to go for it, to be that guy, right? But then the same with Kevin Huerter. I think Kevin Huerter can come in better shape and can be ready. And I don't think he was in bad shape. I just think that the job was different when he got here, and it was a lot more running. He lost his legs. I think that we can say the same exact thing for Malik Monk. I think Malik Monk will come in more prepared to be the player that he was in the playoffs, not the player he was from like December 8th through January 26th or something, where he just completely vanished on this team. If you can take out those segments, you can cover for any injury that you're going to have. And they're going to have injuries. Like last year was a fluke. Their medical staff, their training staff, everyone did a great job of getting these, and the players playing through injuries. All of that was great. Same time, it's unheard of to miss that few games. And, so you have to factor that in. And that's where a guy like Duarte means a lot, or a guy even like Colby Jones or Alex Len. They can mean a lot because there's a possibility for this thing to be different, to have more injuries, to have more games needed off the bench from guys.
Yeah, I think one thing we're in agreement of is that Keegan, whether he takes a step forward in numbers, stats, one thing he probably does take maybe a giant step forward in his minutes. They're going to rely on him a lot this upcoming season, and we're going to rely on James. I'm gonna call back to something you brought up last week, KC. I got a question for James about what measures success for this Sacramento Kings team next season. And we'll do that when we return here with our 1320 Kings insider and creator of the Kings Beat, James Ham, here with D-Lo and KC, brought to you by Sky River Casino and Sacramento Sports Leader, ESPN 1320. You have a good weekend?
Yeah, we went to see Toad the Wet Sprocket at the Crest on Saturday night, and that was a blast. That's my one of my favorite bands from the 90s.
Okay.
So that was fun.
Someone else was here that the 98 Rock crew was it Nickelback?
Oh, I don't know.
I think Nickelback was here. Yeah, anyways. That's cool.
And then we were out on the boat yesterday for quite some time.
It was great weather this weekend. It was very comfortable.
It was a little chilly. The water wasn't super warm, which I was surprised. And then the getting out of the water, it was like there was a breeze yesterday. So, and it's gonna be so hot this weekend.
Yeah, this weekend is going to be tough. Tough.
They look clean, though.
Someone said never heard of that one. Are you talking Toad the Wet Sprocket? It's possible we never heard of them, but if you were alive in the 90s and early 2000s, they were good.
Oh, Crusher says Nickelback was dope. Nickelback was at Hard Rock. Oh, okay. Yeah, I just saw our night, Bailey and girl Nikki D and Nelson were out there.
Nickelback. Is there a Nickelback song that I would know?
Yes.
You sure about that, James?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know any. I can't name a Nickelback song, so I can't partake.
Yep. See, people know Toad in here.
Toad
the Wet Sprocket. I think I saw one time they opened for Hootie and the Blowfish, but they were also kind of in that genre before Darius Rucker went country.
This is for James, but I can answer it. There's an open part of the schedule, Jim, where they play another team that didn't make it. like when teams are playing the semifinals or quarterfinals or whatever, they just play another regular season game that won't be scheduled that week. It won't be announced until it's like a floating schedule for the week of December 4th.
So let me ask you guys a question. So we're going to maybe what happens later this week. Has anybody heard the song Last Night by Morgan Wallen?
No, I don't listen to country at all. I actually don't want to even go into the grocery store by my house because all they do is play country all day long, and I can't handle it.
Oh
I go in and I'm like, I got to get out of here.
I remember last night.
Oh,
You were in
Sacramento,
incredible.
stand up.
Who was that again?
As yet.
That's what I kept. It was AZ something. Yeah, as yet.
As yet.
But
that's the number one song in the country.
Last Night, and it's by who?
Morgan Wallen.
Waylon.
I
think it's Waylon.
Huh. Yeah, I don't know. Last Night. Oh. This is the number one song in the world, in the country.
Billboard Hot 100 last night. For the last maybe not in a row, 13 weeks at number one.
Do we have
really? I mean,
I've heard this country song before.
It's not my bag, but this is the number one song in the country.
It's been there much of the year.
Okay.
Never heard of it.
Wow. What's number two?
Fast Car by Luke Combs.
Oh yeah, and that's first of all
another country record.
I never heard of that song.
Fast Car, isn't that
Fast Car? It's, first of all, it's the worst song. Tracy Chapman.
Tracy Chapman.
It's the worst song in the history of music. It's right there. But
oh God,
it's right below Year of the Cats. But
it's
not a good song at all. And then it's been covered by so many people.
I don't think I've heard this, but I know the cover.
You've heard the original version.
Yeah,
You've heard the Tracy.
I haven't
Chapman
heard
version.
this. I've heard this.
I actually heard this. I mean, he does the song well. Like he can sing, but it's a country record. But like, yeah, that dude can sing though. Okay, what's number three? Shit, give me. Do I know any of these records?
You might know this one. You know this one. Calm Down by Rima. They played on 102.5.
Oh yeah.
While we're
It's
here,
great artwork.
Flowers by Miley Cyrus is 4.
Okay.
All My Life, Lil Durk and Cole is 5.
That's hot.
Favorite song, 6.
Boy. Yeah, hey, kill the beat bed. I need to hear what this Miley Cyrus record is. I don't. Yeah, can you just read off like 5 of the top Billboard songs in the Billboard 100? And I know the Lil Durk joint, and then what was the other one? The Calm Down joint.
The Calm Down. You know, favorite song too. They played out on 102.5 too. I don't know.
Well, what number is that though?
Song. Number 6.
Oh, okay.
I don't like favorite song.
I don't think I know any of this.
Okay, so you're gonna learn.
I know.
And you're gonna love every record.
I thought about that song specifically. Like, damn,
you will listen every day and you will like it. You will like it.
Never say I don't like it. Never say I don't like it. You know who's on the Billboard top 100
songs are country
twice?
I was on it twice. Not Lil Durk. So who?
Ice Spice.
As a feature or both?
Barbie World, I think, is her and Nicki Minaj. It's not really a feature. And then Taylor Swift. Karma, Taylor Swift.
Oh, okay. Ice Spice is dope. I like her.
I like Ice Spice.
Yeah, James, what do you think about Ice Spice?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I don't think about it at all.
This started because
that's how I think.
James, I started with a simple question. How was your weekend? And James went to see Toad
the Wet Sprocket.
And that started.
Where are they at?
At the Crest, which I love the Crest.
The Crest there on K Street?
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know. What is that, like 1,200?
there.
That's where we opened, we premiered Small Market Big Heart. was at the Crest.
Okay.
The first time I ever went to the Crest, I was young. I went to see the Sick and Twisted Festival of Animation. It's like the first time you ever saw Beavis and Butthead and stuff. It was totally inappropriate and crazy. They used I don't know if they still do it, but it was.
Are Beavis and Butthead still on? In like a different.
I think they're coming back. Oh, shut up, Beavis.
Yeah, shut up.
Wow. Do you even know who Beavis and Butthead are?
Yeah, I've seen Beavis and Butthead before.
Okay.
I'm TP for my bunghole. Yeah, there it is.
Don't have to wonder if James watched.
That was a good show.
I think it's still on in some form or some way.
Yeah, I feel like it's on Paramount Plus.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I think they just brought them back.
It's getting out of hand. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
It's not like The Simpsons where it's been on for 50 years.
Oh, no.
But
it's not like The Simpsons.
So is there just a pact that show's never going to end? Like they're just going to keep that show going for eternity?
As long as they know the future. No.
Yeah, that's true.
Have you seen like one of those like 5-minute YouTube videos of the things they predicted? It's spooky.
It's pretty wild.
Did you see they predicted this recent submarine thing too?
Submarine joint. It's kind of spooky. They predicted the pandemic.
They predicted the submarine.
Yes.
I'm telling, like I was telling my friends too, we wouldn't know like they're from the future until like years from now. Like it's a little, they predict a lot.
Bro, they had the pandemic like bar for bar.
Yeah, they had a lot of
in
stuff.
like the mid 90s.
Who's they? Who are we talking about?
What's the name?
Matt Groening? Yeah.
The powers that be.
In like the mid 90s or something, like the early 2000s, they predict the pandemic bar for bar.
Do they happen to throw an end date in any one of those videos? Like, hey, y'all better have a blast before 2027 or
be listening. I'm listening, whatever they say.
Oh man. Well, all right. I know what I'm YouTubing when this show is over. Goodness.
They did catch The Fugitive while you guys were on the air.
I saw that. Was it like around the corner? Where was it?
It wasn't that far. It was over Sunset and Whitney.
That's Rockland.
Whitney Oaks. Yeah, Rockland.
That's Rockland.
He was hiding in a creek.
Yeah, a fugitive escaped the hospital. Apparently, he was involved in a police shootout like a few weeks ago, and they took him, I guess, to the hospital for a checkup. And our wonderful police force somehow lost track of him, and he got away.
How long has this been going on?
The weekend. I know it started.
Hours.
I think I know yesterday my neighbor, my man Ron, was like, that shooting at the park. I was like, yeah. He was like, well, the fugitive got loose and he's in Roseville somewhere. I'm taking Sprout out for a walk. Bad. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna need you to define Roseville for me here, Ron. Can I go for a walk or not? Yes. I don't have a license to carry. Like, am I safe? Like, what are we doing? Yeah, he was and there was a report. We believe he's in Rockland. Like, all right, well, I ain't gonna about it then. And I don't know how armed he could be leaving the hospital and potentially at least slightly wounded, but they found him in a creek. So
yeah, he's killed a few people.
Jesus Christ. I had no idea. I'm just la-di-da-di-da going to work.
I drove right up here. Like Center Roseville is literally like a mile and a half away.
Kenny coming into work. Oh, this gentleman looks like he needs help.
You're going inside. Here, I'll hold the door open for you. Here, go inside.
Not good.
Sir, you needed a ride? Oh, I got you, buddy. Come on, man.
Kenny.
Hop in the spaceship. I got you.
Kenny.
Oh man, I'm usually good with watching the news too. I ain't watched the news for the last couple. I ain't watched the news since the 4th of July. I usually watch it pretty often.
Man.
That was like 6 days ago. You haven't watched the news at all?
No, I have Twitter.
Oh, well, that's our first mistake.
No.
I have been gaining Twitter followers left and right. I think that is a mark that they're trying to keep me from going to some other shop. The Twitter guys. All of a sudden, I'm like, hey, look at that! I've gained 400 Twitter followers in like 3 days. How come none of them have pictures?
Don't go to Threads.
It's just a bunch. We promise we'll give you a lot of new Twitter followers if you don't go to Threads.
Which was dude's whole big thing was, we're gonna eliminate the fake accounts. And I trust me, locally, you're going to know when the fake counts are eliminated. You're going to see numbers plummet.
Yeah.
Be like, yo, didn't that person have like 50,000? Oh, man, he's got 10,000 followers.
We have lost ourselves in this entire segment. I don't know what happened.
Well, entire segment, yeah, James. Have you been with us the last 3 days?
It's July 10th, fam.
James, this show has really hit different over the last few days.
It's July 10th, and there might not be a player that plays for the Kings Summer League team tonight that plays on the Kings. I'm just being honest.
Oh no, Colby's already.
Colby will play. Kessler's still on the team too.
Yeah. And Colby.
Kata, I think Kata will be. So Kata and Jordan Ford will be.
Okay, so I'm glad. Perfect, because we'll get back on track here.
We segued. Good segue.
Jordan Ford making either roster, be it the main or a two-way. Does that come at the expense of Kata?
No. Okay, so right now the Kings are at 13 roster spots. If I'm the Kings and I'm looking at this seriously, I at least have to consider Jordan Ford for a two-way contract.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't need to put him on the regular roster. You could give him a training camp invite and then see how he works out in training camp and see if he can help run the show. He's undersized. He's not great defensively. There are some issues there. But if you put him on a two-way, he can spend up to 50 games during the regular season with the team. And so if you have an injury and you need a third point guard, he's really not going to play third point guard either way. Malik Monk's going to slide over and be the second point guard and like take up. I don't think that they're going to do what they did last year at Dellavedova, especially when they have more depth at the 2 and the 3 with Duarte and stuff like that. So you can slide Monk over to the point. You can put Duarte in the backcourt with him on the bench. But I like the idea of having a two-way third point guard. I don't think that they needed Matthew Dellavedova full-time last year on the main roster. I think they could have done other things with that roster spot, and they chose not to. And, Dellavedova was a good teammate. He was a good leader behind the scenes. But this season, I think Jordan Ford, to me, makes a lot of sense. But if there's another point guard that you're watching Summer League who just jumps out and you just go, man, like, he's not on a roster. He doesn't have a two-way. He's not you can go extend a training camp invite to somebody, give them $100,000 to show up to training camp. A nice little bump, especially if they're going to go play in the G League or something. And if they make it, they make it. If not, it's okay. And, nothing ventured, nothing gained. But with Jordan, I like him. He's fun. He's exciting. He's a local kid. Lots of good ties. It's a good story. The chess championship thing is really odd and strange, especially since he stopped playing when he was like, 6 or 8. You're like, oh, okay, well, this seems like an interesting story. And our good friend Joe Davidson wrote that story in the B First. So yeah, I mean, why not? And then with Kata, I still think it's up to him to show that the player that he was in the fourth quarter on Friday was an NBA player.
Really well in the fourth quarter.
That was straight up.
I've been hard on him, all California class. Fourth quarter, he was a X factor. He changed that game in the fourth quarter. He played really well.
He was the best player on the floor, without any question, and he should be the best player on the floor. I think the problem is that when you transition from being the star at your team, and then you show up at Summer League and Keegan Murray standing there, and that he's going to be running everything. People have been really hard on Kata. There's a couple of folks out there that are just like blowing Kata up the entire time on social media. And I just don't get it, because I've watched him every single game like everyone else has. He has gotten so much better from the first game of the California Classic to where he is now, which, again, these guys weren't playing for a couple of months and all of a sudden they're playing in competitive games. But watch what he does off the ball. Watch the screens he sets. Watch how he clears out everybody in the key and allows his teammates to get rebounds. I've been super impressed with what he's done, because he's never going to be the star of the Sacramento Kings. He has to do the other things. And I think he's checked all the boxes. The one thing he hasn't done is he hasn't gone for 20-something points and 15 rebounds and just showed, I'm dominant. That's never who he's going to be with the Kings. So why are people expecting that because he's in the Summer League?
Yeah, Kenny.
There's a bunch of people there at Summer League that want this, though.
That's exactly what I'm looking for. But worst case scenario, need him not to get 7 fouls.
Yeah.
And rebound. Well, I do want to see dominating rebounding numbers. Like, I want to see him dominating the boards. The scoring is kind of whatever, because he's not really going to be looked to score. But at that size, I want to see the rim protection, which he does a decent job of. I think he could be a better rebounder.
That skip pass he threw to the corner was nuts.
Mhm.
That was like, holy cow, that dude can flat out pass.
So this might be a weird question. Obviously, he's playing, but what is he under a like? What type of deal is he under?
They have a summer contract for guys.
So he's not.
No, he's not on. He still has a qualifying offer
Mhm.
of it's right around $2 million. It's cap hold.
That obviously he hasn't signed.
Well, no, because the qualifying offer he's under is a two-way qualifying offer. So he can accept a qualifying offer, but it's a two-way. It's not. So while it's a cap hold on the main roster, if he accepts it, this is one of those weird salary cap things. If he accepts a qualifying offer and goes to and takes a two-way contract, his cap hold goes away, and that the Kings would have that space because two ways don't count against your salary cap.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing. Like, I think he's done enough.
But that goes back to the Jordan Ford question.
Yeah.
Like, then if he signs the two-way, then Jordan Ford had to make the team.
Yeah.
Would have to be on the main roster.
Yeah.
And I think if I wouldn't, I'd rather Neemias Queta be on the main roster than Jordan Ford. I kind of lean with Kenny in this, in the sense that I don't know what Queta can get out of another year in the G League.
Yeah.
I want to see him play.
He has to
with
show
Sacramento.
he's not a 4A player. That's what he has to show. He has, like you have the guys that get to AAA and they just kill the ball and then they get brought up and they can't hit at the major league level. It's a 4.
But he needs more of a chance in the majors,
I
to
fully
stick with
agree.
your analogy, to see if he could do it. Not hey, hey, go against Joel Embiid for 3 minutes and collect 4 fouls, and then we'll pull you out.
Yeah, and how I look at it, if you're going to go with the true small ball center in Trey Lyles as your backup, because that's what it sure does look like, right? Again, you're not going to spend $8 million a year on a guy who's just going to sit on the bench. So if he's going to be your small ball 5, you need a big man, and you got Alex Len, but you already saw what Alex Len could do in like a break in case of emergency situation last year. I would prefer they give Queta that opportunity, bring him in, let him work all through training camp, let him work against an all-star, a small ball center, and a 7-footer that, like Alex Len. Let him work against those guys. It's 3 totally different types of centers that he's going to face at the next level. But again, with people out there, like, watch what Queta does on defense. Watch his closeouts on 3-point shots. I was so impressed with his closeouts. Watch how he gets in a stance and he backpedals, and he's taking on a double team, or he's taking on the pick and roll. Like, there are so many things that he's doing extremely well. And if you're just missing that because he's not scoring, there's not a whole lot of, because it's not like he's getting shots. He's not getting shots. So, the only guy that really started passing to him was Jordan Ford, and then Keon Ellis a little bit. So, I just give him a little bit more of a chance. And the other guy is Slauson. Like, when you sign a guy to a 2-way contract, that really doesn't mean he's at, like, they're pretty much non-guaranteed. You can waive a 2-way contract at any time. And remember that 2-way contracts, it's probably guaranteed, but the 2-way contracts, they don't count against your salary cap. So you could like waive 3 2-way guys in a season and just keep paying the $500K every time. So you can cycle through those guys. So if Slauson isn't showing what you need him to show you at Summer League or during the first week of training camp, first 2 weeks of training camp, you can waive him and you can sign someone else to a 2-way. Like, I love Alex O'Connell, watching him play, and then they don't play him. And you're like, okay, what are we doing here? Because every time he's on the court, he's fun. But yeah, I think, maybe just let's see how Queta finishes here, and then let's let them have their discussions.
Yeah, I'd like to see him get on the main roster.
Yeah,
he needs that opportunity to see what you got. See, if this is a guy that was just and it hadn't even really been a bad summer league, like even including the California Classic. Like, if we went to his numbers, he's probably averaging like 11 and 10 or something like that. Like, he hasn't been off or anything like that. So I don't want to make it sound like that, but I would see, hey, is this a guy that you can carry on your roster and can be a productive part of your rotation as you're trying to become a championship contender? That doesn't mean he has to be the starter or the backup or anything like that. But, and as you know, James and Damian, you as well, when you're trying to win a championship, there are no wasted roster spots. So can he be a productive member of that? Only way you're going to get a chance to see that is by giving him the opportunity. So if you have a two-way situation, that's what we talked about earlier. I'd rather give it to Jordan Ford. It seems like that's where he's probably at more so in his career, as opposed to Kada, who's already done the two-way thing. You know what he can do in Stockton. It's time to know once and for all with the Sacramento Kings who he is. You know what I mean? If you look at him and he doesn't have a great year, you move on from him. Maybe he gets it somewhere else. Maybe it's a different, scenario and different situation that brings out the best in him. But you got to know here in Sacramento who you got with Neemias Queta.
I agree. And I just want to, I think he can be really solid for them. I mean, I don't love plus minus as a stat, but he was a plus 15 in the first game in Cal Classic. He was a plus, I think, 8 in game 2. It's the things that he's doing on the court that are impactful for winning. That's all you care about, because that's who you need him to be at the next level. You don't need him to be 20 and 10. You don't need him to average 4 assists a game. You need him to be a rim protector. You need him to rebound when he's on the court. You need him to set screens and to not make a bunch of mistakes and get you in foul trouble.
Can he sign for? You say his contract's $2 million. The cap hold is $2 million. What can he realistically sign for with Sacramento?
He can do like a 2-year deal starting. It would actually drop down, I think, because his years of service, it's like 1.75 million.
So he'd make less money.
Yeah,
if he signed the 2-way deal.
No, because even the cap hold it's just a cap hold at that
dollar
amount.
Okay, got you. Okay,
and it's for years of service, so maybe it is a starting salary of $2 million with the new, when they redid all this.
Cap's gone up, James.
No, the cap goes up.
It does keep going up. Yeah. Oh, and we were we got a minute here. The Malik Monk situation. I know a lot of Kings fans are panicking, right? So
I may be one of them.
Yeah. So Malik Monk is what they call an early bird, right? So if they would have signed Malik Monk to a 3-year deal, then he would have full Larry Bird rights. So all of us keep getting tied up in what the early bird means, because typically what it means is that it's what we saw with Rashawn Holmes, and it's what we saw with Trey Lyles. And while the reason the situation is different with Malik Monk is this: the early bird is basically either 105% of the league average salary, which when it was Rashawn Holmes, that was $10.3 million was a league average salary plus 5%. Because he only made $5 million a year before, it's the larger of two items. It's either 105% of the league average or 175% of your previous year, the final year of your contract. So Malik Monk is over $10 million this year. I think he's at 9.9. Maybe it goes up for him this year. So it's 175% of that. It's not what Trey Lyles was capped out at, which was like 12 million for the early bird, or what Rashawn was capped out at, which was 10.3, because 175% of $5 million is like 7, whatever it is. It doesn't equate to the same thing. So here's my point. Malik Monk can get a starting salary over $17 million next year. That's probably plus 8% raises, and they can go up to a 4-year deal. So a lot of people are thinking, oh, he's gone. No, he's not gone. Like if he wants to be
17 per next year.
Yeah, he can get a starting salary at $17 million.
When can that be offered? Can that be offered during the season or not till free agency?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'd have to look. He is your own player, and it is an extension, so it's possible. But if you look at the way
sometimes ththose 2-year things are weird.
Well, which is exactly what we saw this year, where Trey Lyles, they could not announce before, the moratorium, but Harrison Barnes they could. So I'm going to guess a 2-way. I mean, that early birds you're not allowed to announce until after. But my point is that if he wants to be here, a $17 million a year salary, starting salary, like I'm not sure the Kings want to pay him that much, but they have that opportunity. So you shouldn't think that, they completely killed themselves here. And then we go back to the fact that Rashawn Holmes, you sold his rights with the 24th pick, right? So they have 12.9 million less on the books for next year than what they would if you would have just kept the 24th pick. And that's a big deal, because again, we're looking at 147 million in dedicated salary for next season. and you throw in a $17 million deal, that's one thing. But if you add that $13 million in, now we're looking at 160, and anything on top of that 160, you're starting to look at luxury tax